There are some players whose panic level is sky high through 2 weeks of the fantasy season, and we're going to talk about them right now. Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Chris, going to talk about some players who haven't quite lived up to expectations through 2 weeks of the fantasy season, and let you know, should you be panicking or is everything okay? Let's jump into it. All right, let's start with running backs, and a big name running back, Travis Etienne. This is a guy, myself included, a lot of people thought was going to be a breakout running back this year, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen because James Robinson, credit to him, it looks like he's going to be the first running back ever to come back from Achilles, make a full comeback. Obviously in week 1, he was technically the lead back, but it was pretty close. But then in week 2, it was pretty much all James Robinson. 23 carries to Etienne's 9. Not only that, Etienne did catch 3 passes, but James Robinson also had 2. This looks like Travis Etienne is nothing more than kind of a complimentary back to James Robinson. Now, there's not a lot you can do with Travis Etienne except panic because it's going to be hard to trade him right now. His value is really low. You can't really cut him because he's still too valuable to be on the waiver wire. You kind of just stash him on your bench and hope it gets better. But right now, panic level very high for Travis Etienne. All right, back to another big name running back. How about Ezekiel Elliott? 2 weeks in a row, bust city for this guy. 15 carries today, that's great, but only 50 yards. But the big worry here is Tony Pollard had 9 carries. Tony Pollard also got a goal line carry. And Tony Pollard had way more targets, 7 targets. Zeke only 2 targets, 1 catch for negative 4 yards. Zeke at this point of his career is just a touchdown dependent running back who you cannot start in bad matchups. Sure, in good matchups where he has a chance to score, he'll probably be usable. But in bad matchups against tough defenses like Cincinnati, he has to be on your bench. I'm going to say panic level high for Ezekiel Elliott. Another running back I really liked this offseason and was really encouraged by what I saw in week 1, and that is Chase Edmonds. Dominated this backfield in week 1. And then in week 2, it was all Raheem Mostert. I don't know why. This was a great matchup, but Mostert got the bulk of the work. Out-carried Edmonds 11-5 and had 3 catches to Edmonds 1. So maybe this is just a backfield where 1 week it'll be Edmonds and 1 week it'll be Mostert. Probably a backfield we're going to need to try to avoid if we can for the time being. I'm not going to put the panic level high here for Chase Edmonds. I'm going to put it at medium because he wasn't a guy you should have been counting on week in and week out anyways. And again, we did see him get the bulk of the touches in week 1, so this could certainly change as early as next week. So panic level, medium for Chase Edmonds. And then how about Rashad Penny, another running back people really high on this year, coming off a big stretch run last year, helped people win championships. Big problem for Penny right now, though, is that Ken Walker was back on the field, and what did we see today? 6 carries for Penny, 4 for Walker. Obviously, the Seattle offense couldn't really run the ball or do much, but bigger worry for Penny is Travis Homer had 4 targets, and Walker had 3, while Penny had 0. So if Penny is going to be splitting work with Kenneth Walker on the early down and not catching any passes, his value is going to take a massive hit, especially in a Seattle offense that looks like it's playing football 50 years ago. So Penny, another guy I'm going to say high level of panic on at this point. All right, a big name wide receiver, DK Metcalf, now has only topped 60 yards 1 time in games that Geno Smith has started. And in that 1 game, he took a short pass and went 84 yards to the house, which sure, DK Metcalf has that ability, but he's only going to do that once, maybe twice a year. This Seattle offense is terrible. This passing offense is terrible. There is just no real upside with DK Metcalf. Sure, he's going to score some touchdowns at some point, probably, but I really think DK Metcalf is going to be this year's Allen Robinson, a quote-unquote stud wide receiver who is on waiver wire by the end of the year. So panic level has to be high on DK Metcalf. And let's talk about Juju, though, because he looked like the guy who probably had the most value. In week 1, got 8 targets, didn't do a whole lot with them, but at least that was encouraging. Then here in week 2 against the Chargers, did almost nothing. He hasn't cracked 10 PPR points yet, and it just doesn't look like he has much of a ceiling or really much of a floor. Again, Juju wasn't a guy a lot of people drafted to be, there every week, lead them to a championship type wide receiver, more like a wide receiver 3 type. So I'm not going to put the panic level high here. Just understand Juju is still the same guy he's always been. Maybe in really good matchups you can feel okay starting him, but most of the time, probably just going to be on your bench. Panic level, medium. Now let's head out to New York, the Jets, and Elijah Moore. Week 1, got good usage, got good targets, just really didn't do a lot with them. Week 2, well, that was the Garrett Wilson breakout week, right? 2 touchdowns, a ton of targets. Look, Garrett Wilson looks like he's going to be the real deal in the NFL. But you know who looked like the real deal in the NFL as a rookie? Elijah Moore. Both these guys are very, very good wide receivers. This is probably just going to be a volatile situation all year. 1 week it might be Wilson like it was in week 2. 1 week it might be Elijah Moore. And then some weeks it might be both or neither. Just probably how it's going to go when you have 2 very good wide receivers on the same team. So I'm going to put the panic level low here for Elijah Moore because I do think better days are still ahead for him. You just got to understand he's going to be pretty volatile the rest of the season. And then hopefully I don't have to talk about this guy anymore, but every week we get questions about Kadarius Toney. I don't know why everybody loves Kadarius Toney. He was a freak athlete. He is a freak athlete, but he wasn't some polished route runner coming out of college. He wasn't some incredible wide receiver prospect. And what have we seen so far in the NFL? Not a good route runner. Doesn't really get separation. He's okay when he gets the ball in his hands, but guess what? Everybody in the NFL is a freak athlete. That talent, that athletic separation is not the same at the NFL level. And then what did we see in week 2? Well, first of all, week 1, 11% of the snaps. Not going to do it. Week 2, 3 targets, 2 catches, and a big fat 0 yards for Kadarius Toney. On a day when Daniel Jones attempted 32 passes, he got 3 looks. Not going to cut it. This guy is not even fantasy relevant. I get it if you want to stash him and hope somehow, some way down the road it turns around, but right now, not fantasy relevant, can't be started. Panic level has to be very high for Kadarius Toney. And then another wide receiver, I know this guy wasn't drafted to be, an every week stud wide receiver, but Chase Claypool is still on like 70% of teams. He's still being started by a lot of people, and it's just not going to happen for Chase Claypool. Hasn't hit 10 PPR points. Deontay Johnson is an absolute stud, and he commands a huge target share. Pickens looks like the deep play kind of guy in this offense now. Najee still getting targeted plenty out of the backfield, even though people said it wouldn't happen. There's just not a lot here for Chase Claypool, especially with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. Maybe if Pickett finds his way into this starting lineup, things will get better for him, but probably not. Claypool, I'm not going to say panic level high because this isn't really a guy you were counting on. I'll say panic level medium, but I will also say if there's somebody really good on your waiver wire that you can drop Chase Claypool for, I think that's okay at this point. All right, we got to start with the biggest name at tight end, and that is Kyle Pitts. What is going on? I guess the breakout just isn't going to happen. This is Drake London's team. This is the Drake London show. Only 3 targets today after 7 targets in week 1. Not going to get it done. Not really getting looks. Not involved in this offense. I don't know what you do with Kyle Pitts other than panic. Panic level has to be super high because this is a guy you drafted to be your every week stud tight end, and it is not happening. You can't really trade him because he has no trade value. You can't really drop him because he's too valuable for the waiver wire. And you probably just have to play him because it's not like there's going to be great tight ends on your waiver wire that you can stream over him. This is a terrible situation to be in. I have it in one league, unfortunately. And you just got to put Kyle Pitts in your lineup and hope he somehow does something going forward. But right now, panic level definitely high for Kyle Pitts. TJ Hawkinson. No, he wasn't drafted to be a top 5 elite tight end, but he was still drafted kind of in that 6 to 9 tight end range, like an every week start him and don't worry about it tight end. And so far, that hasn't been the case. On the good side, he's had 7 targets in each of the first 2 games. On the downside, he's done nothing with those targets. Amon-Ra looks like he's making the leap. He's the real deal. 2nd-year breakout coming. But then you also got Swift is healthy right now. Chark is getting involved. Reynolds is getting involved. There's a lot of pass catchers on this team, and it looks like right now TJ Hawkinson is the odd man out. Now, you can't really drop TJ Hawkinson because chances are the tight ends on your waiver wire are really bad. But I will say if by some chance Pat Freiermuth is on your waiver wire, or maybe Gerald Everett is still out there, I would drop Hawkinson for one of those guys. But other than that, I'm not dropping Hawkinson. You're just going to have to ride it out and hope it gets better. Panic level high, though, for TJ Hawkinson. And then at quarterback, this guy, he's the GOAT. He's Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. He's been an absolute fantasy beast the last 2 years. But I said, look, he's going to bust this year. And so far, it's looking that way. And it wasn't because I think Tom Brady is all of a sudden bad. It's because Tom Brady has no weapons. Chris Godwin, they rushed him back from that ACL. What happened? soft tissue injury in the first game. Gronk retired. Julio Jones already missing games with a knee issue. He's dust anyways. And Russell Gage really hasn't impressed so far. So yeah, he has Mike Evans, but then what? Cameron Brate. I mean, really not a lot of weapons here for Tom Brady. Only 400 yards and 2 touchdowns combined for the first 2 games. That's way below what we expect for Tom Brady. Sure, he'll have better days in better matchups, and maybe if Godwin can somehow get back to full health, maybe if Julio can actually get on the field and do something, he could have better days. But right now, I don't think Tom Brady is even a top 12 quarterback. I don't think he's a guy that needs to be started in 1 QB leagues. I'm going to say panic level high for Tom Brady. All right, another high-profile quarterback, Joe Burrow. I don't know if it's because of the surgery he had in the offseason. I don't know if it's a Super Bowl hangover. I don't know if it's both. But he has not looked like the guy that we saw last year. Week 1, 4 interceptions in a terrible loss to the Steelers. Week 2, didn't even hit 200 yards, only 1 touchdown. Thankfully, didn't turn the ball over. But still, that is not what you wanted when you drafted Joe Burrow. This is a guy that was drafted top 5, top 6, top 7 at the quarterback position. Not getting it done for your fantasy team. Now, panic level is going to be low here because he's a good quarterback. He's got weapons. He's got Chase. He's got Higgins. He's got Boyd. He's got Mixon out of the backfield. The Bengals, I think, will be okay. This offense will be okay. Going to put the panic level low for Joe Burrow. I think he comes around and gets better. Another high-profile quarterback that is struggling right now is Russell Wilson. Not what the Broncos envisioned when they brought him in to be their franchise quarterback. Only 2 touchdowns on the season. Might have just lost Jerry Jeudy for the short term. We'll see what that injury is like. But man, not what we were expecting from Russell Wilson or this offense. I'm going to also put the panic level low here because look, think back when Tom Brady first started with the Bucs, he didn't come out of the gate looking like a world beater. Matt Stafford last year struggled early on. There's going to be some growing pains anytime you're on a new team, especially with a new head coach. I think he'll get it going. I think he'll get it together. He's still a great quarterback. So I'm also going to put the panic level low for Russell Wilson. All right, now that you know some players that you maybe should or should not be panicking about, you need to know who to start, who to sit, who to grab off waiver wires, some trades you can make. Look, we got everything you need to help you win your Week 3 matchup. Just check out this playlist right here. 10 videos every single week plus 3 live streams to help you dominate and win.